Egghead Island is officially over, and after passing the gateway in what is now One Piece's endgame, I have to say this may be one of the greatest arcs in One Piece so far, and to think the purpose of this arc was simply to set the foundation for the rest of the series is insane. But now we are about to reach one of the most highly anticipated arcs in One Piece, that was first hinted a staggering 1,000 chapters prior in Little Garden, which is none other than ELBAF. And all I have to say is, if you're still unsure as to what's to come in ELBAF, there's really only two panels you need to pay attention to in chapter 1123. The first panel is this image of the Straw Hats on the giant warrior pirate ship, who are celebrating their long-awaited reunion with Dory and Brogy along with the other giant warriors. But the one person who stands out above the rest here is Usopp, who for maybe the first time ever, instead of crying in fear about the potential dangers that might be in store for the Straw Hats as they head to their next destination, instead he's crying genuine tears of joy. And that's because we're about to witness Usopp self-actualizing in real time as he approaches his dreamland. And I believe that every misconception we may have about Usopp's character, being a liar, a coward, or a burden of the Straw Hat Pirates, will be shattered, and instead we will see a completely new person, Usopp 2.0 if you will. Now, ever since Dressrosa, Usopp has been rather insignificant, with very few major feats in Wano and in Egghead Island. He's been gradually falling behind and being outshined by every other Straw Hat. Not to mention, my boy really tried selling toad oil to the impoverished people of Wano, which if you ask me is a total war crime. And if you actually take the time to rate his performance over the last two arcs, you'll probably realize Usopp really has been more of a liability than a true asset to the crew. So it's no surprise that Usopp's stocks have hit an all-time low. But I'm telling you, now is the time to start investing in Usopp's stocks, because with ELBAF on the horizon, he's about to flip the script and prove to the world why it's not just a stroke of luck that he earned the title of God Usopp. Now, if you're still doubtful that the focus of ELBAF will be on Usopp, Oda actually gave us another very obvious indication in this chapter, which is the second panel I wanted you to take note of at the end of chapter 1123, where we witness the apparent jubilation of the giant pirates for reuniting with Luffy and Usopp. Now, you might dismiss the fact that Luffy and Usopp are the only Straw Hats shown in this panel, but it's not a mistake, and there's a clear intention from Oda. This is Oda's way of alluding that the main focus of ELBAF will of course be the dynamic of Luffy and Usopp in relation to their connection to each other, the land of giants, and the giant warriors themselves. Now, the Mad Lad Duran broke down an amazing analysis a while back highlighting why Usopp is essentially Luffy's shadow, and I think it does a great job providing a lot of context of what we should expect between Luffy and Usopp in ELBAF.
Did you know that Usopp is Luffy's shadow? For Usopp, Luffy is the ideal he's constantly chasing after, a captain, a brave warrior of the sea who never runs away from a fight. But despite their differences, Usopp and Luffy constantly get into similar circumstances with similar outcomes. For example, Luffy punched a celestial dragon, knocking them out, while Usopp fell on a celestial dragon and knocked them out. But this actually extends past the Luffy-Usopp dynamic, reaching the great figures of the past, Roger and Nolan. And as Luffy has inherited Roger's will, Usopp walks in Nolan's footsteps, turning his lies into truths, which is why during the time skip, Usopp was sent to an island inhabited by wild plants because Nolan was a botanist. Roger and Nolan are two sides of the same coin. Roger died laughing, potentially telling a lie while everyone believed him, and Nolan died crying, telling the truth while no one believed him. Nolan set out to sea as a brave warrior and died a liar, while Usopp sets out as a liar and ends his journey as a brave warrior.
Now, based on everything Duran said, a part of me believes we will witness a Luffy versus Usopp round 2, but under very different circumstances. And I believe it will stem from whatever Usopp envisions what it means to be a brave warrior of the sea. And if Usopp does in fact leave the crew, I don't think it'd be out of resentment for Luffy or off his own insecurities, like what we witnessed in Water 7. But maybe it will be because he doesn't have a choice, and he might have to make a sudden act of self-sacrifice if it means keeping Luffy's dream alive. Now, there is a very popular cover spread from early on in the series, which the fanbase has referenced time and time again, to confirm their predictions that Usopp will reach his demise before achieving his dream, which is this cover page where the Straw Hats are playing the simple game of cards, and Usopp is obviously distressed because he drew the cards with a skull and crossbones. And from this seemingly insignificant panel, this is a basis that many fans reference when they discuss whether Usopp will be alive by the end of the series. And while it may seem like a stretch, for now it's something to keep in mind, as we witness the unexpected events unfold as the Straw Hats approach ELBAF. But now I want to break down my theories for the potential power-ups we can expect to see from Usopp, and why his power level might just skyrocket to top 3 in the Straw Hat crew. Now, the first power-up I'm very confident we will witness from Usopp is that he will unlock Conqueror's Haki, and my basis for this is quite simple. Over the series, we know many of Usopp's lies have come true in one form or another, and in Wano, when Big Mom uses her Conqueror's Haki to confront Kid and Law, Usopp lies to some of Kaido's subordinates to intimidate them, and claim that Haki was his. And simply from this moment, I instantly believed it's it's only a matter of time for Usopp to showcase his innate conquer spirit. Personally, I think it could happen when Usopp takes command of the giant warrior pirates and leads 8,000 mighty soldiers under his command, which is also a reference to another lie he made back in his showdown with Luffy at Water 7. Now I also believe Usopp will gain the ability to consciously use observation haki, maybe even showcasing the most spectacular display of observation haki we have ever seen, including future sight manipulation, where he can disillusion his opponents to witness a false reality, along with manifesting insane range with his sniping abilities, where he can consciously use his observation haki to hit any target across ELBAF from miles away, and he might even be able to manifest an ability to shut down the observation haki of other users, similar to how Shanks has earned the title as the killer of observation haki. Now the next major power-up I think we could expect to see is Usopp being chosen to wield Thor's hammer Mjolnir. While we haven't seen Usopp's hammer make an appearance for quite some time, his hammer at one point was a cornerstone of his offensive strategy. But what really makes me believe Usopp is destined to wield Mjolnir is based on the 2 times he used his hammer, back in Alabasta and again in Thriller Bark. In Alabasta, when Usopp was matched up against Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas, he's seen wielding a supposed 5-ton hammer. And after whacking Mr. Four in the head with a hammer, he stated, "The number of ships I've sunk is too many. The people call me the Lord of Destruction." And again in Thriller Bark, when Usopp is pitted against Perona, he ultimately defeats her by absolutely traumatizing her after wielding a supposed 10-ton hammer, while making the claim he's known as the strongest superhuman from the East Blue. And it's these 2 moments that I always reference when I consider Usopp's future power-ups on ELBAF. And given his history of turning lies into reality, to me this is just an obvious foreshadow that Usopp was destined to wield Mjolnir. And I could even see a situation where Usopp could be pitted against the current detestable prince of ELBAF known as Loki, where I speculate he could challenge him for the right to wield Mjolnir, with Loki being the central antagonist of ELBAF. And when Usopp either overpowers or outsmarts Loki, he will become a legend of ELBAF and gain the respect and trust of all the giant warriors across the land. Now the next potential power-up we may witness is actually one I found on Reddit by the Reddit user Green Straw Hat 32, who believes that to parallel the Norse god mythology deeply institutionalized across ELBAF, Usopp may have a power-up that will be inspired from Greek mythology from the god Apollo, where Apollo is considered the Greek sun god, known as the god of archery, music and dance, truth and prophecy, and as Luffy's shadow, he may awaken his own sun god manifestation, which could be enhanced and augmented with Bonnie's future distortion abilities. And the last power-up we can expect to see from Usopp, and another one I'm actually quite confident in, is that Usopp could gain the power of a devil fruit. Now I don't actually believe that Usopp will eat a devil fruit, but what I do believe is now that Vegapunk Lilith is confirmed to be the last remaining Vegapunk to join the Straw Hats on their way to ELBAF, there's one piece of technology I've been waiting to see firsthand for a long time now. Now I've had this theory for a while that Lilith will combine a devil fruit with Usopp's slingshot to give him an immediate power-up as they land on ELBAF. And while there's tons of devil fruits that Usopp could potentially stumble on, the one devil fruit I'm convinced he will find is the snake fruit model Yamata no Orochi. Now the reason I believe it will be this power over any other devil fruit is because after Orochi was decimated by Denjiro for the last time, his devil fruit had to return back into circulation, and this normally happens to the closest fruit in proximity of where the user perished, which was first confirmed in Punk Hazard when Caesar Clown's pet Smiley was defeated and killed. So I believe that Orochi's devil fruit could be among the tangerines on Nami's tangerine tree on the Sunny, and it's only a matter of time before Usopp stumbles on this power and claims it for himself. But for now, these are my speculations on how Usopp will level up from the weakest among the weak trio to potentially top 3 among all the Straw Hat Pirates, maybe even contending with Luffy himself. But if you agree or disagree with any of my Usopp power-up predictions, let me know in the comments. And until then, I'll catch you mad lads in the next video. Remember to like the video, sub to the channel, and click the bell for post notifications, or Boa Hancock will leave you on red in her DMs.